When you travel, don't you just want to hop on in one of these tour buses, but you're not sure if it's worth your money? Don't worry, we will rate these tour buses for you.
Meaning that when they first came into the area to develop the city, where we are sitting right now, this is where it all happened, right here. Prior to them coming into the city to develop it, the only two things that we actually had here in the community was the Presidio, which was completed in the year 1782, and the Mission, which was completed 1786. That was it. Those are the only two things we had in the community. They are to our right-hand side. One of them is pretty close to the base of the mountains, which would be the Mission, and of course the Presidio is more in town, close, not too far from where we are right now. Those are the only two things. So when they came into the area, they wanted to develop a community. The only way to get into the area during this time was by ship. The only way to bring goods, passengers, all that good stuff was by ship. When they first started to develop the community, this little neighborhood used to be the industrial part of Santa Barbara when it all first happened, believe it or not. Only 91,000 people here in today's world. So you can only imagine when you're first coming in, there's nothing here, but oddly enough, this was the industrial part of Santa Barbara when the community was first built. 20 different wine tasting opportunities just in this little neighborhood that it just turned into. 2 microbreweries, few restaurants to eat at, places to shop at. That's what you're going to find in this little part of town. And like I say, now in today's world, this is it. This is a very, very popular part of town. So don't judge the book by its cover, because some of these buildings are pretty old. You go on the inside, they're very cool, they're very unique. And to give you an idea, as I cruise through here, left-hand side, I always like to point this out. This probably puts everybody at ease. The old building here, the metal building to the left, you're going to see those 2 big brown French doors. And there's a white SUV to the right of it. Right where you see those brown doors, believe it or not, that is a real estate office. Just to give you an idea on what it's like here. So even though these buildings may look old, like I say, all the riffraff has been gone for many, many years, dating back, believe it or not, right around the early 90s. And then finally it started to evolve. Inside a little bicycle shop called Hazards. Think about this one. Still operating under the same name, selling bicycles since the year 1914. Think about that. Still selling bicycles. I mean, that's impressive. I don't mean to really get into it like that, but that's highly impressive. And the reason I say that, there's been so many other things that have gone out of business during that time, but yet the bicycle shop, it's survived all these years. That's pretty awesome when you think about it. Condo complex to the right, the newest one in the neighborhood. As we continue to evolve, you're going to see more condos, more hotels, and more restaurants. Left side, the little coffee shop called the Lucky Penny. Believe it or not, the whole exterior of that building, those are real pennies stuck to the exterior of that little coffee shop right there. Yeah, and I'll tell you a little story about that here in just a minute. The Lark Restaurant. This is a great place to eat at. I will not refer you to a restaurant I have not been in. I don't think it's right to do that. There's just something about food with me. So everything that I talk about is something that I've been in. Other than that, I'm not going to brag about it. I don't think it's right to do that. But that restaurant right there called The Lark, that is an excellent place to eat at. Been there, I couldn't tell you how many times. The street I just turned right on is called Yananoli. This is the main thoroughway right through the heart of the Urban Wine Trail. Not only on the main street, but also up and down the side streets. Not very big. No sooner we get to the stop sign, we're going to be to the end of it. So from the stop sign in front of us, and there's going to be one behind us, which when we come back into the community a little bit later, we're going to start at the very beginning of it, which you're going to see this neighborhood is very, very small. But yet, this is where it all started for Santa Barbara when the community was first being built. Coffee shop to the left-hand side, that is the second one. The Lucky Penny was the first one. I'll tell you the story about the Lucky Penny. Been here since the year 2000. During my sales career, obviously I was only working here on the weekends. I was not doing the city tour. I was only doing private charters. Almost 3 years ago now, when I retired, I told them, hey, I still want to continue to work part-time, whatever, just use me as you need me. So that's pretty much how it is. But she asked me, she says, God, Russ, she goes, could you learn how to do the city tour? I said, sure. So I go out, I'm going out with all the guys that do the city tour. I'm riding with them, taking notes, recording what they say, everything. And I'm putting all this together because I got to come up with my own way to talk about all this good stuff. So anyway, every time we go by the Lucky Penny, every driver, no matter who I rode with, is going to brag about that building, because it is pretty unique, right? So I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. I'm thinking, yeah, I can't even, can you imagine how many pennies there are that are glued to the outside of that building? I'm thinking this to myself. I'm going, these guys, they're lying to me or whatever, right? Even though I know they weren't, because obviously they got guests on board and they're telling the story. So I had to. So one afternoon, I finally got to that point. No, you know what? Drove here in my car after I trained with the guys. I came here all by myself. Drove downtown. Get out of the car. Go up to the coffee shop. And there's an indoor and an outdoor place where you can order from. So I was on the outdoor, looking to the guy straight in the eye. Got good eye contact, so he couldn't see what I was doing. I ordered a cup of coffee. I stood really close to the wall of the coffee shop. So as I'm talking to him, my right hand was massaging the front of the building. I had to make sure that those were real pennies, and I'll be damned. And I sat there. I mean, he must be going, God, this guy's got this big old smile on his face. He's ordering a cup of coffee. I was like so happy to feel the fact that these are real pennies, So anyway, that's how I justified it. Because I'm going, can you imagine how many pennies are glued to the exterior of that building? And I'm thinking, there's no way. Well, I will tell you, yes way. Those are all real pennies glued to the exterior of that building. To obstruct the view of the ocean. Imagine that. Bought this piece of property, did what you did to it, turned it over to the city to be maintained. Just so that as we drive down the boulevard, you look to the right, there's nothing obstructing the view of the ocean. This piece of property is grandfathered into eternity. Nothing ever can be built on the right-hand side here. So those of you who have been here before didn't really know much about the history of this piece of property, wondering why there's no hotels that are built on the right-hand side. Well, now you know. So you'll see as I continue on the boulevard, all the hotels are all going to be on the left-hand side, and there'll be nothing here on the right-hand side. When that happened, that was it. Oil started seeping out for 11 days straight before they could actually get it to stop. Sad part about the story, covered about 35 miles of shoreline just full of oil. When you looked out here during that time, you could barely see any of the brown sand because so much oil had come up onto the shoreline. But when you looked out in the water, all you saw was this big black giant strip of oil floating up on top of the water. It was really ugly, really nasty. My dad used to take us down there to see how it was going, all this good stuff. So, once we were able to come back to the beach, everything looked great. So every time I look out here for myself, now that I know the history about the courts, I go, wow. Remember, just think about that. We used to have pro beach volleyball tournaments held right here in our community on these courts. The last pro beach volleyball tournament that we had was 12 years ago. That was the last one that we had. So we'll see what happens. Maybe in due time they could come back again. So these are public courts. Anybody can come down here any day of the week, come and hang out at the beach and play some volleyball. These are public. Looking straight outside the windshield of the trolley, this is going to be hard to see. I'll tell you when I think you guys might be able to see it right now. Look straight up on top of the hill, right in between the trees. There's going to be a very small portion of a house you're going to be able to see right there. That is the Clark estate. Senator William Clark, he bought this estate back in the year 1923. Senator William Clark being a very successful copper miner. He was mining for copper. Made an enormous amount of money, was one of the richest guys during the time that he was alive. One of the richest guys. Can you imagine that? Made an awful lot of money. Came here, bought this estate, 1920. Entrance to the estate, right here to the right. When I cycle back around a little bit later, I'll pick up on that story. But on the left-hand side, this is going to be the best view of this. Go in this direction. Left-hand side where you see the golf course of the Montecito Country Club. This was actually completed in the year 1918. Been around for a long time. Within the last 3 years, the clubhouse and the golf course has been completely refurbished. Completely refurbished. It is a private club for members only. They actually state that the initiation fee just to become a member is $300,000. That does not include your dues. That's just to become a member. It is not the only high-profile golf course we have here in the area. Golf is very, very popular here. You come into town, they know there's not going to be any paparazzi. General public doesn't bother them. The paparazzi, because they follow them, cameras in the bays, wanting to get a story, all this good stuff, that doesn't happen here. Real estate, Very, very, very high-end real estate here. You would never know it when I start throwing out the numbers to you here in just a second. A lot of high-end real estate. Oprah's one of the biggest names we have here. She's got the largest and the most expensive estate that we know of here in the community. In today's world, because property value has escalated so much, her property is valued at $100 million. Just to kind of give you an idea what it's like here. This street, even for me, even though I tell the story, this doesn't radiate $100 million. But if I take it into the mountains, just make a left-hand turn, and if I take it to the mountains here, then you would see what $100 million really looks like. So it's like say, it's kind of a sleepy, very calm, cool collective. You didn't know much about it, you'd have no idea what it's really like here. That's why the celebrities come here. No paparazzi, high-end real estate. They can come into the community. They're not going to be bothered by the paparazzi. General public, no problem. No problem. Some of the big names, you got Oprah, you got Ellen, you got Harry and Meghan, Katy Perry, Kenny Loggins, the three Douglas families, Drew Barrymore, Kevin Costner. What else am I thinking of here? Michael Jackson used to be. John Travolta used to be. Jonathan Winters used to be. Not here anymore. Brad Paisley, Brad Pitt. Those are some of the big names that I can recall off the top of my head. The two restaurants that you're going to find most of your high-profile people, Lucky's right there that we just passed, and the restaurant here at the Montecito Inn. This is probably where you're going to find most of your high-profile people right here amongst these two restaurants. The Montecito Inn, 3 stories high, 61 rooms, underground valet parking, completed in the year 1928. By any chance anybody know who built it? Sometimes people throw out the name, sometimes the story. No? Who was that very famous actor that made all those silent movies way back in the early 1900s? Charlie Chaplin, yes. Charlie Chaplin and friends. Charlie Chaplin was not the only one that actually invested in building the Montecito Inn. Why did it happen? Charlie Chaplin living in Los Angeles, the era of time that we're going to be talking about, 1910 to the year 1923. Charlie Chaplin living in Los Angeles, he was having to be all the way up into Santa Barbara to make his silent movies during that era of time, because this is where the filming studios used to be before Hollywood was ever established. Me living here all these years, I'm probably like anybody else thinking Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it and whether you want to believe the story, Hollywood was not first. Santa Barbara was first. Hollywood was not fully established until the year 1924. If Hollywood was established, there would have been no need for Charlie Chaplin and anybody else living in Southern California from 1910 to 1923. There'd be no reason to commute all the way to Santa Barbara if Hollywood was established. So there you go. Charlie Chaplin fell in love with the area, driving back and forth. He fell in love with the area, got together with a few other buddies. They were the ones who actually built the Montecito Inn, completed the year 1928. Just to show you how much Charlie Chaplin loved it here, he lived the rest of his life out right here. He passed away in the year 1977 at the age of 88 years old. 88 years old. Married his 4th wife right here in the area. He was married 4 times. Yeah. Just to kind of give you an idea. Called the Coral Casino Beach and Cabana Club. Private club for members only. Private access down to the beach. It's got a ballroom, a dining room, big giant swimming pool on the inside. Come here, hang out for the day. Come for a cocktail, something to eat, something to drink, massage, whatever it may be, if you're a member of a private club. We have a lot of beautiful old world charm, and we do have some newer hotels here in the community. They're both awesome. It's all up to your personal preference and what your taste is. I like old things, and the Biltmore, amongst all the hotels that we have here in the community, this is my favorite hotel. Still closed due to the pandemic, and I'll tell you the story why. Everything that I talked about so far, it is owned by Ty Warner. If you don't know much about Ty Warner was the one who invented the Beanie Baby. The Beanie Baby. Now in today's world, it's all about high-end real estate. Everything I talked about so far, plus the San Ysidro Ranch, which is in the mountains of Montecito to the right-hand side, and the Sandpiper Golf Course, which is further north here in the community, all owned by Ty Warner. The very beginning of the pandemic, A really quick left-hand side, because you guys may not see this every day. You can see the dolphins out here. Look in the water, left-hand side. It's easy to see. Just keep looking to the left. They'll do that for quite a bit now. Now that I've seen them, just keep looking to the left. Obviously, you can see the direction they're going. So just kind of with your eyesight as I'm talking, just keep looking out there, and then maybe you might be able to see. There they go. They just surfaced again. So just keep looking as I talk. We can chew gum and talk at the same time. I'm just teasing. No, but I mean it's not every day. It's not every day we get to see that. So I want you guys to keep looking at that right there. Even I got excited because I don't see them every day. So I'm looking and I'm talking at the same time. You guys only have to look. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing all of you. Trust me. Pretty awesome. It's so funny because when I first turned the corner, when I was looking at the water conditions and I saw how smooth it was, this is typically when you see them. When I see the water conditions like this is when you really notice them the most. No sooner make the right turn, we're going to lose it. But that is his private estate here in Montecito. We do not know if he lives here year-round, and we do not know if he refers Montecito as his home base. All these high-profile people, they got homes all over the place. Usually they're referred to as one of them as being home base. We don't know if he actually calls Montecito home. That part we don't know. Right-hand side, where you see that building right there. Follow this property on the right side all the way up to the main gate. This is all part of the Music Academy of the West. You're going to see the main gate coming up here on the right-hand side. This was completed in the year 1947. Right-hand side. That is the main gate to the Music Academy of the West. And then on the left-hand side, the gate that you see right here, that is the rear gate of Ty Warner's estate. So from that gate right there, left-hand side, all this vegetation, all the way up to the next stop sign, that's all part of Ty Warner's estate. This piece of property here, this used to be 4 individual pieces of property at one time. He got his hands on all 4, bought all 4. Once he completed the task, tore everything down to build this one big giant estate. Once I get to the stop sign, look to the left, you're going to see the front gate of Ty Warner's estate. That'll be the main entrance to the estate. Took many, many years to build. I'll never forget when they tore everything down. That sat as a dirt lot for a long time. Then the next thing you know, they came back to it. Then they built the wall all the way around the perimeter of the property. Then they planted all the vegetation on the outside of the wall. Then they started to build a house. The city of Santa Barbara, they donated $50,000 to the city of Santa Barbara to develop the bird refuge, which you're looking at right inside of the trolley. This is all in memory of her sister Andre Clark. Of course, that's how it got the name, the Andre Clark Bird Refuge. All in memory of her sister. $50,000 to build the bird refuge back in the year 1928. Can you imagine how many millions of dollars it would cost in today's world to build that bird refuge? Amazing when you think about it. Hughie Clark was never married, never worked. No, never was married, never worked, and never had any children. Last surviving daughter. The other side of the bird refuge, all that property you see here to the right, that is the back side of the Santa Barbara Zoo. Coming up here on the right, you're going to see the old wooden building, and then the big palm tree, this big bushy palm tree here. No sooner you get a glimpse to the right, we're going past that palm tree, just keep looking to the right. Keep looking. No sooner you see the rock wall, just keep looking in there. Just follow it to the right as I continue to drive forward. There you go. How about that? You heard us. Look, hey bud, we see you. Yes, 2 of them. Yes. Look at there.
Oh my God.
Whoa. There's 4. Let's see if we can see 2 more. Just keep looking to the right as I continue. Look to the right here. Don't stop. We're not done yet. Right hand side is actually the feeding pen. That's where they feed them on the very right hand side of that pen right there. So right past this tree, one more time. Let's see if we can pick up 2 more here. We need 2 more. No, that's okay. We did see 2. We saw 2 of the 4. That's a good thing. There is 3 adults and 1 baby. Yes, 3 adults and a baby. And at least we got to see 2. And I didn't know what I was going to do if we didn't see any. This street, you're going to see a white building with blue doors on the very end of the street, not to the left-hand side, very end of the street. Tell me if you could tell me the name of the motel when I pass it. Very into the street, to the right-hand side. The sign's hard to see, but I already saw it once. You guys might be able to see it right now. No?
No.
On the wall? Yes, I heard somebody say Motel 6. Yes, thank you. Reason why I get all excited? That is the very first Motel 6 that was ever built.
Wow.
All started right here in Santa Barbara back in the year 1962. It got built by 2 local contractors living in the area. Yep. Now in today's world, I mean, think about how many locations there are. When they first built that motel, I doubt very seriously if they were ever even thinking about how big it was going to get. I mean, obviously that chain is large now in today's world. But listen to this. Back in the year 1962, when they first opened up, the story states that they were only charging $6 per night back in the year 1962 when it first opened up. Now in today's world, if you were here for the 4th of July, you would have spent $300 to stay at the Motel 6. And to think, in the early days, they were only charging $6 per night. What a difference from 1962 to now. Another big, beautiful hotel coming up here on the right-hand side called the Hilton. This was built by a very, very famous actor. His name was Fess Parker. If you don't know much about Fess Parker, he was the one who played the acting role as Daniel Boone in Davy Crockett. That was Fess Parker. This was all completed back in the year 1986. Sits on 25 acres of land, 350-room hotel. Believe it or not, I don't really know all the hoops that he had to jump through during this time, but this was a 20-year project. It took 20 years before this was actually completed. From the time he first bought the property to the time the hotel was completed, took 20 years. Took a long time. So there must have been a lot of things he had to do before he actually could build this hotel. Met Fess Parker personally, then over 20 years ago. My wife and I were at a fundraising event here in Santa Barbara. He was one of the guest speakers. The city of Santa Cruz, which is just north of here, Santa Cruz has the largest. They are number 1 on the list, and we are number 2 on the list for having the largest holy wars. 1 and 2. Santa Cruz number 1, Santa Barbara number 2. Yep. You haven't been out there before? I would recommend going out there. It's got a really nice feel to it when you walk out there. Not a clear day today, but just something about it when you're out there. A couple of restaurants out there. You got a Sea Center. There is one place that does a little wine tasting. There's an ice cream store, a candy store, places to shop at, things like that. Fishing. If you look to the right-hand side, that is the main street that goes all the way through the heart of Santa Barbara. It divides east and west of the community. We are now on the west side of Santa Barbara. Volleyball courts, left-hand side. This is referred to as West Beach. Next tree right here. It's just a small tree. This is one individual tree. This is not a clump. This is not a group of trees. This is one individual tree. This is a big tree. This is brought in from a gentleman from Australia back in the year 1876. Came here on a vacation, brought the seedling of this tree with him. The story states that when he got off the ship, he met a teenage girl. He gave her the seedling of this tree. She took it home, and she fostered it for about a year's time before leaving the community. Right before she left the community, she gave it to a girlfriend of hers that was staying here, and of course the rest is history. This is where it became. This became its permanent location right here. It is a Moreton Bay big tree brought in from Australia back in the year 1876. 200 feet across, 80 feet in height. They actually say the tree trunk measures to be right at 12 feet across. The first year we've ever had a fence around this piece of property. 2 reasons: people that were living here, too many homeless, and then also whoever started to carve into the trunk of the tree. You're going to see as I drive through here, right-hand side, there still is a lot of fruit. There used to be a lot more on the tree, but a lot of it has ripened up and has fallen off the tree. But for a little tree to produce that much fruit, that goes to show you how healthy it is. The figs that you see here, they're only about the size of maybe a cherry. That's about as big as they get roughly. Nothing like the type of fig that we would normally eat. There again, this came from a different country. They actually state that the fruit is not edible due to taste. So all the purple ones that you see, that's it. They're fully grown, they're ripening up, and of course then they're going to fall off. So, but not edible due to taste. There, that's super mushy. So it will eventually just fall off. Those are a little bit bigger, more about the size of a cherry right there. That's it. That's about as big as they'll get. Let's see what this car's doing here. This is our local train station. Conflicting dates on when it was built and conflicting dates on when it was restored. The conflicting date when it was built, I see 1902 and I see 1906. The conflicting date when it was remodeled, 1996 and the year 2000. So I'll use the earliest and the latest date. So I'll say it was built in the year 1902, fully restored in the year 2000. Look at the glass windows up above. You can see how they have kind of that wavy look to it. That's how glass used to be back in the day. When I look at her original picture when she was first built, when they restored this building, they did not change a thing. They didn't change the footprint at all. That's exactly how it was built when you look at her original picture right after they built it. They never changed the thing when they restored it. A lot of times they'll say they restore something, and then of course if you could come up with the original photos when it was first built, then sometimes you'll find that they made some changes to it. So that particular building there, I was just looking up the history on it here not too long ago, and when I looked at the picture I thought, oh my god, take a look at that. They didn't change a thing. It's exactly how it was when it was first built. This is State Street that I'm turning left on. The very first street that goes right through the heart of Santa Barbara. This is the street that, for the most part, the one that we live and die by. Okay, left-hand side. Some of you might appreciate this. The Reagan Ranch Center right here to the left. You'll get a ton of information pertaining to Ronald Reagan. Yep, right there in that building. Ronald Reagan and Michael Jackson. I'm going to go back to that really quick. In our lifetime, we've always heard that they lived in Santa Barbara. That's all we ever heard. Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara, Santa Barbara. Well, not to be mean, not to pop anybody's bubble, but Michael Jackson and Ronald Reagan, they did not live in Santa Barbara. Okay? The two ranches that they live on, they each had a ranch. Those ranches are not here in the foothills of Santa Barbara. It's closed due to the pandemic, being used as a temporary promenade, but it will get you 2 good views of it. So just bear with me here. I gotta take an alternate route. Usually we just go straight up State Street. There's some good history. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to drive on that street, so I gotta do something a little bit different here. So some of the stuff is gonna be just from what I've been seeing, what's been happening in the community, the changes that I see. And this is gonna be a big change right here. This is starting to happen more and more. Left-hand side, this big building right here to the left. This is a mixed-use building. Condominiums up above, commercial down below. We're starting to see more and more of this in the community. So you'll see as we continue to take the tour, the city won't grow any larger what you've seen so far. One main street, which I'll show you here in just a second. That type of lifestyle, very, very conducive to the city. Prior to the 1925 earthquake, the architectural style that used to be here in the community was Victorian. Left-hand side, that Victorian house right there in the corner, that is a Queen Anne Victorian. It is one of the last ones we have here in the city. Before the 1925 earthquake, that's all you would have seen here. On this street, and the neighborhood to the left-hand side of us, a lot of old Victorian homes in this section of town. That used to be the architectural style before the earthquake. When the earthquake hit back in the year 1925, registered 6.3, 6.5, or 6.6. Those are the conflicting numbers I find. So you can pick whichever number you want to pick. But that's still, despite the fact those numbers right there, that's a big earthquake, caused a lot of damage to the city of Santa Barbara. First part of the closure to the right-hand side, all being used as a temporary promenade, and then look to the left-hand side. So for those of you who've never been here before, this is it. This is what Santa Barbara's all about. That's it. On that one street right there, keep in mind, no indoor shopping malls, no big tall buildings, nothing like that. Year 1782. It is was a Spanish military outpost. It was 400 by 450 foot square. When I go through the intersection, you're going to see the balance of the building, what's left on the left-hand side. But if you look to the right, kind of give you an idea what it was all about. Obviously, you can see the end of the building. And you can see the end of a wall. There used to be a wall that went all the way around the perimeter of the fort. Yeah, 400 by 450 foot square. Not much left. You can see as I cruise through here. We're approaching the rear of the fort. The front of the fort faced the ocean, which was behind us, or which is behind us. Okay? Think about this one. Never was invaded during wartime. Never was invaded. But you look at the building and go, oh my God, we probably have less than half of it left. What happened to the building? We've had a lot of earthquakes. Like I say, 1925 is when we had that last major earthquake. Being used as a temporary promenade. They're going to make their decision at the end of the year whether they're going to make it permanent or turn it back into a street. That's it. That's how it works here. You just go from one city block to the next, walk up one side, cross the street, go all the way down the other side. This is how we do our shopping here in Santa Barbara. There is one outdoor shopping mall called the Paseo Nuevo Shopping Mall. You go down the 700 block, which is about 5 blocks behind us. Left-hand side, you're going to come across an outdoor shopping mall. It encompasses 2 city blocks. That's it. That's all you get here. This is the upper part of downtown Santa Barbara. This is the end of it right here. Carlitos is an excellent place for Mexican food. And you got the old Arlington Theater here on the left-hand side. That was actually completed here in 1931. It is the largest indoor venue that we have here in the city of Santa Barbara. That theater seats a little under 2,000. Inside, it's got the Mission. You'd be looking at the mountains. You can see the mountains, but they're not that clear right now. And then the right-hand side, all this property to the right where the Rose Garden is and all that, this is all part of the Mission property. This is referred to as the Mission Rose Garden. Yes, all part of the Mission property, right and left. The Mission was completed in the year 1786. Okay, remember the date, 1786? Right-hand side, the upper rock wall, that wall used to continue all the way over to the Mission when it was first built. Okay? As I pass it, look to the right, you're going to see there's going to be a big groove that's channeled right to the very top of that rock wall. The main purpose for that groove, that's what fed water all the way over to the Mission when it was first built. The reason I tell you guys, remember the date, 1786, that was when the Mission was completed. The old wooden reservoir coming up here on the right-hand side, this was not completed until the year 1806. So the Mission relied on that rock wall to feed it water for quite a few years before the reservoir was actually built. So just to kind of give you a little information there. Kind of interesting how things worked back in time. We're going to do a drive-by at the Natural History Museum. This is the oldest museum we have here in the city of Santa Barbara. This one dates back 1916. Okay. The Montecito Country Club, as I showed you earlier on the tour, that one dates back 1918. Give you an idea where the Montecito Country Club is and where the museum is. So, in relation to the city. A lot of great information here. A lot of great history pertaining to the Chumash Indians, the islands off the coastline of Santa Barbara, and all of the wildlife here in the area. Chumash Indians, I get very excited when I start talking about them, because I always say that they have the bragging rights to the area. The reason I say it like that, they are the very first to come to the area. Very, very cool to look at, but very sad when I tell you this story. This is the bone structure of a blue whale. They found this off the coast of Lompoc, just north of here, back in the year 1980. Brought it down here to be put on display. They do not know the cause of the death. Okay, listen to this. The estimated age, 10 to 12 years of age. The sad part about the story, they can live to be between 90 to 100 years of age. So it died very, very young. That is really sad when you think about it. Think about what you're looking at. We don't want something like this to be, ending its life too early. To think that, especially they can live to be that long. I mean, just as good as humans or better. I mean, pretty awesome, but pretty sad that it died very, very young. So they tell us, the only part of this bone structure that they had to recreate when they brought it here was the tail section. That was it. And if you look at the tail section, You just take your eyes and then just kind of follow up and come all the way up here to the front. You can kind of tell it's got a different look, a different glow to it. There's something a little bit different. So I'm going to believe them that that's the only part that they had to recreate, because the balance of this, when I come up front, it all looks original as I see it. The only other thing that they did, if you look at the rib cage, you look at the ribs on both sides, there's going to be an upper and a lower bar that's bolted to the ribs. That's done purposely, just to keep their shape, their form. That's all that's there for. Formation, they were 21 here in the state of California. This is number 10, the largest, the only one that's got twin matching bell towers, referred to as the Queen. Okay, that story pertains to her as you see her in today's world. The reason I say that, when she was first built, year 1786, she did not have a bell tower when she was first built. Earthquakes. Every time she got damaged by an earthquake, they rebuilt her a little bit larger and a little bit larger. Wasn't until the year 1820 that they actually gave her her first bell tower. She was built 1786. Wasn't until 11 years later, 1831, that they actually gave her her second bell tower. At that point in time, that was it. Twin matching bell towers, she was the largest, the queen, the whole 9 yards. What happened in the 1925 earthquake? Both of the bell towers were destroyed in the 1925 earthquake. Very, very unfortunate. If you look up at the bell towers now, look at the material that they're made of now versus the material down below. You can see this big difference. And of course, I just told you the reason why. Last time she was actually damaged by an earthquake, 1925. Years after the earthquake. Yeah. Just as you see it. Nothing's been changed to this building since it was built back in the year 1929. The sunken garden. The lower part of the grassy area where you see all those chairs lined up, that's the sunken garden. That location right there was the location of the very first courthouse that used to be here. It was right there at the sunken garden. We do all kinds of wedding events here. It's amazing how many people come from all over the country just to get married right here at the courthouse. Yeah, we do a lot of wedding events with the Trolley company. So, yep, and this is it. Left-hand side, this would be the main entrance to the courthouse, right here on the left. You could go inside, take the tour, free of charge.
So we just got the Santa Barbara tour bus. It was an hour and a half. It's I think it was $15. No, 25 per person. It's a 1 hour and a half tour, and it takes you where you can get wine tasting if you like wine, and it also takes you to the mission. We are in the mission for a quick, just a quick see. It takes you to the main city. Well, Santa Barbara is very small.
Downtown Santa Barbara.
Downtown Santa Barbara, and tells you a lot about the history of a lot of stuff. Apparently, everything in Santa Barbara was, I think, was it vintage?
Industrial.
And
supposedly
houses.
right here, it was when Hollywood started.
Oh yes, Hollywood started here. For Charlie Chaplin started
And it's the
here.
land of the wine.
And it's the land of the wine. Well, why you're so far? Come here.
Kathy got her
As
wine.
always.
Bam.
Rose Garden.
The Rose Garden wine. Bam.
We're gonna try it later.
We're gonna test it later. ¿Verdad, tía? We're gonna test it later.
Yeah.
It's a rosé, I'm a week
After
for
the
rosé.
earthquake of 1925, all the houses changes to Spanish, like the way you see it right now. So it's very nice, very pretty, very educational.
How you rate it?
I'll give
I
it.
feel like it depends what you like. The
Yeah.
tour is mainly almost like San Diego. It's not a big city. It's
Very
not.
small.
It's like a small town. Don't expect it to be like New York or LA.
Or LA.
It's literally like San Diego. It's smaller.
It's smaller.
So it
Pretty
depends what you
educative.
like. If you want to come here for a nice chill vacation where you don't
They
gotta
have
worry.
a zoo. I didn't know they
They
had
have
a
a
zoo.
And when
Me
you talk to
neither.
giraffes.
And they have a natural history museum too.
Yeah, they have a natural history
It was the
museum.
first natural history museum built.
So I liked it. I'll give it a. I'll give it an 8.
too.
Like an 8, right?
I give it an 8 too.
I
He
give
was
it an 8.
very informational.
Very
And
informational.
apparently Santa Barbara is the land of the wine and beer.
Yep.
Which I'm gonna come for my birthday and just bar hop the whole entire town. And I'm gonna be like the video of
She wants me to
Staples
come so
Center.
I can carry her.
I'm gonna be like the video at Staples Center. Link down below where you can see me drunk as hell.
Like and subscribe everyone.
Like
I see
and
Kathy
subscribe.
drunk.
Yes, like and subscribe. We want to see Kathy
Drunk as hell.
drunk.
And
Yeah, but I like
apparently, like celebrities come and live here because there's no paparazzi.
There's no paparazzis
And
and,
and
people
like-
don't give a damn.
Yeah. Which vibe? Same.
So no, I'm not gonna say it. Never mind. Okay.
But-
I lied. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Bye.
Oh, Mom said that in the far end you can see the beach, and that's true. That's not the sky. That's literally the ocean, dude.
Pretty.
Very pretty.